Yeah, welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty interesting show for you here today, and got one of my guys, one of my very good friends, and you'll see him in just a minute. He's going to be here to talk NBA with us, so definitely looking forward to that. But if you haven't already and you're here on YouTube, you know what time it is. Please go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date and kept aware whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio only version of the podcast so you can just listen while you're cooking, driving, doing whatever, go ahead, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in the Format Podcast, and we should come right up. Make sure if you're enjoying the content, you give us that like, give us that 5-star review, give us that comment. We try to answer all of those. It helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. So grateful. So thank you so much for joining us here today. All right. So let's get right to it. Joining me today is my good friend for almost 20 years now, my main man, Eugene Genius, former Division II basketball player at Shepherd University, and he's here to talk some NBA with us. What's up, G?
How's it going, Hope?
Man, going good, man, going good. So for y'all that just caught that, he called me Hope, and the reason he did that is me and G, we met each other in, what was that, 06, man?
That's 06. Yep.
Yeah, 06 in Army Basic Training at, I guess what used to be called Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I don't even know what it's called now. But, we were there together, and we trained together for almost a year, man. And that pretty much made a lifelong bond. So this is my brother for life, man. And so he's here to talk some hoops with us, and we're glad to have him. So let's get right to it. So the first topic we're going to talk about is... What else, man? What else? You talking NBA, you got to talk LeBron, right? And so I often discuss how LeBron James got like the wildest fan base we've ever seen of any NBA player, right? How if you're even remotely critical of LeBron, like people just go into attack mode. And I'm not just making that up, right? Like, for instance, you watch the mainstream sports media. If you watch Shannon Sharpe and anybody's critical of LeBron, like, he's ready to start screaming and yelling and almost crying on set, like he was going at it with JJ Redick the other day. JJ Redick was calm and all that, and Shannon Sharpe was getting upset. We know last year Shannon Sharpe almost got into a fight with the Memphis Grizzlies, right? Because he didn't like what they were saying about LeBron. So it's crazy. You see Nick Wright going nuts, going in his feelings and getting all up in arms when anybody says anything he doesn't like about LeBron. We're not even going to talk about the LeBron fans. It is really, really wild, how these guys act, you know what I'm saying? And so we look at it and we say, yes, LeBron is an all-time great. Yes, LeBron has had an all-time great career, but it is just wild the way people act. And so why am I bringing all this up? I'm bringing all this up. Let me start with it, because when I talk about LeBron and I'm critical and I say things that people don't like, or I point out flaws or whatever, I get the, oh, you just a hater. You're an old head hater. You trying to tear another black man down and all this type of nonsense, right? I hear all that. And I've often said the reason that people react that way is because so much of what you hear, about LeBron in the mainstream sports media and from LeBron fans is, painting this guy in a light as if he raises the dead and heals the sick and walks on water and he's just infallible. And that's just not the case. Yes, he's an all-time great basketball player who's had an all-time great basketball career. I totally get it. But it's disingenuous to act like this dude makes no mistakes. And one of the biggest things that I think is a major mistake of his is that whole business of, I've said it many times, I feel like he cheated the game. And what do I mean by he cheated the game? I feel like he cheated the game by not sticking it out in Cleveland and fighting through and going through the fire the way Michael Jordan did, the way Isaiah Thomas did, the way Larry Bird did, and so many of the greats before them had to. You don't just get to come in and think you're going to win automatically. And when you fight through the fire and you get to the top, it means more. And so him loading up the super team and creating that super team era and going to Miami, I've often said that was a terribly weak move. And what I'm going to do here, because I often get called that old head hater and people say, oh, that's just the old head way of thinking. Well, I say it all the time. Even the players of today don't feel that way about LeBron that the mainstream media wants them to, or the way the fans want them to. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play a little clip here. And this is from modern NBA player who's now retired, Jeff Teague, we're going to hear what he had to say. Then we're going to come back and discuss it. All right, so check this out.
Y'all team was cheating, though. Let's keep it real.
No,
I remember when Bron came to Miami, everybody was like, "Nah, this is weak." I ain't gonna lie, this is weak. I ain't give a fuck. I was in my third year. I was like, I don't care. I just want to hoop. I'm trying to get paid. But I remember Joe. I was at Joe Johnson's house, and he was just like, "Why would they do this?" He's like, "This is weak, man. Bron, he weak for that."
All right, so there we go. What's up, Ron? So there you go, right there. So you see it. All I did was point out, right? I pointed out what someone else said, and I'm getting called a hater on Bron, but that's cool. So G, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna stop talking now. You're my guest, man. Go ahead and give me your thoughts on that. One, what do you think that the modern NBA player thinks about LeBron, and what are your feelings on the moves he's made and how he's done in his career?
I'm gonna say this. I think the pressure from him starting as and being called the king early on, it made him make moves that he probably shouldn't have made. Right, joining a team and a super team, we've seen it a lot of times when the Lakers had built that super team so that Karl Malone, Gary Payton could catch a ring. That was late in their season. He just decided to do it earlier. So I think when you look at like playing ball and playing with a chip on your shoulder, you want to go through the fire, right? But he came in the league young, with a young coach, with a lot of pressure on his back, and he wanted out of that fire because he wasn't going to win. He wasn't winning, so he did what his brand suggested, I guess, right? That's how I look at it. Was it the move that all the great ones? I think he took a couple steps back doing that, but I don't think it affects his legacy at all. You see a lot of players at the end of their career trying to join and hop on. You seen Melo do it. And a lot of other great players jump on at the end to try to get that chip before they cash out. He just did it earlier.
So I hear what you're saying with that. And I don't mind if a player at the end of their career tries to do that because they've done everything they could on the front end and they just couldn't quite get there. So they've accomplished everything they could as an individual player, but the winning wasn't there. But to your point, LeBron was still really young when he made that move. What was he, 25? When he made that move to Miami? And so, like, people want to say, oh, well, Bruce, you hating because the big three Celtics did it. Well, number one, that was set up by an organization. The franchise did that. The Boston Celtics organization, not the players. And number two, Ray Allen got traded to Boston. KG got traded to Boston, right? These dudes didn't get together in the summertime, team up and say, hey, we got to do this. We got to get together. And it's weird to me that D Wade even did that because he was a champion already, right? He could have said, yeah, I don't really need all that. I got mine and I can fight through and try to get another one. So I think it's very, very different when an organization does it versus when players do it. I really don't have a lot of respect for that. So I got Mark Davis in the chat, and this for you, man.
You play to win the game.
So it's at the end of the day, it is all about winning, and I understand that. But Mark, you and I have talked about this a number of times, and here's the deal: everyone may not see it this way, but I really do think that not all championships are built and viewed the same. I really feel that way because the all-time greats. And I think most fans, etc., I don't think most people view the championships that LeBron won in the same light as the championship that, say, Jordan won or Olajuwon won, or maybe Olajuwon's a bad example because a lot of people say that he only won because Michael Jordan was, away from the game at that time. Whether that's true or not, don't know. But the point is, I think a lot of times people see the organically created and earned championships in a much different light. Like, for instance, people don't even see those Golden State Warriors championships with KD in the same light. So let me ask you, G, where are you on those Kevin Durant championships in Golden State? Because I think they may have been even worse than what LeBron did. Where are you on that?
I remember that was a game 6, game 7. KD came down. Steph came down. He was looking at LeBron, smiled at him, and passed the ball to KD. And then KD hit the three, and I think that put them over.
Yeah.
And so I think after that, let me back up. Does LeBron get 40,000 points without joining these super teams? Is a question, right? Does that happen? Or how does his game continue to develop? Does he continue to develop his game without joining those teams? That's another question. KD been silent for a long time since his injury, and I mean Steph's still doing it, man. To me, Steph is king of the hill or king of the court, and then there's everyone else. So, I mean that's how I see it.
So to answer your first question, I think Durant. I think LeBron does hit 40,000 points without joining those super teams. I think his stats might have been even more crazy because he definitely would have scored more points because he wouldn't have had to give some up to those other guys, right? I definitely agree with that. And the other point, so I see Christopher here in the chat, Kevin Durant carried that team to the championship. Totally disagree. I don't know how. I don't know how we can say that. Yeah, he was a great nuclear weapon on those teams, but how can we say that when they won before him and they won without him? So clearly they proved that while he was a deadly weapon on those teams, to say he carried them to the championship, that doesn't make much sense. I mean, the empirical evidence is there that they could win without him. They did it twice. So I don't really get that. But yeah, I think for me, part of that thing with LeBron and the super teams and all that is that for some time, and you know, the pro LeBron and the pro player guys, they want to say, well, he ushered in the player mobility, the super player mobility, and players taking charge of their careers and all of that, and all that is great. But I think he also damaged competition in the league for some years, and he made it cool. He made it cool to shirk competition. And for me, while they won, I mean, they absolutely won. There's no arguing that, right? But while they won, the shirking of competition is a big thing to me. That's, to me, a hit on LeBron's legacy. Now, many people won't see it that way, but I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. A lot of people won't see it that way, but I see that shirking competition and making that okay and making it excusable. I think that's a big problem, and I don't think that was good for the game at all.
It would have been if Chris Paul was allowed to join the Knicks that year. It would have been, because then you would have had multiple super teams in the East, and it would have been more competitive. But I mean, putting them with D Wade was a cheat code. Putting Kyrie with him was a cheat code. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Durant sat 30 games, something like that, before they got to the playoffs. Well, they sat him before the playoffs started, and when he came in, I mean, all he had to really do was just provide that extra threat when they faced the Cavs. That's
right. And here's the other thing about that, you know, not to delve too deep into it, but if you are really going back and thinking about that series, or really that stretch of time with Kevin Durant in Golden State, as good as he is, doesn't it make him 1,000 times better that you're playing in a system with Klay and Steph? So those are two guys that you cannot help off of. And so he's one of the best ISO players in the league, maybe one of the better ISO players ever. And he's in a position where he cannot be double teamed because of the other weapons on his starting five. So that's not to take anything away from his skill set, but it sure makes it a lot easier, does it not?
That's why they join super teams.
There you go.
Get triple team. Allen Iverson went through it his whole career, getting doubled and tripled, and so
that's right. And so, you know, I just look at that and I say, man, we gotta stop being disingenuous. But back to the Jeff Teague and the comments on LeBron. I don't know if you guys heard it during the clip. One of the things that he said was basically everybody thought, you know, that Ish was weak, you know? And so again, the mainstream media and the LeBron fans want to play it like that was cool, but it wasn't. And even the players know it. And everybody wants you to believe that everybody believes LeBron is the GOAT. And it's not true. I want to say 58% of active NBA players, let me repeat that, 58% of active NBA players in a survey last year, not 10 years ago, not 5 years ago, last year said Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time. So where are we getting this? Everybody thinks LeBron is the GOAT and it's just the old heads holding on. Where's that coming from? Somebody tell me.
What's this year? 19? 19 for
This year, 21 now.
21. And so I watched something, I think it was Jeff Teague's podcast, where they said when Mike was in his final days or he was pushing 40, you know, the average 20 points with the Wizards would put him above like all his peers prior to LeBron coming in and doing it now. Whereas though I don't know how many points he averaged a game right now, but it's just we've never seen anything like this before. Right? Good, bad, or indifference. We never seen anything like this before. This style of play.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, so when we say we've never seen anything like this before in terms of what LeBron is doing statistically in year 21 with the most minutes on his legs in NBA history, absolute fact, no question. All right, cool. Here's the thing about it. When I look at the other guys, because the big stat is LeBron has scored more points in his year 21 season than all the other players who played a year 21 combined. That's like Vince Carter, Robert Parrish, Kevin Willis, and I think one or two other guys. I can't remember. But the point is, none of those guys were a main option by that point in their career. Okay, cool. We can just say they weren't as good as LeBron. I'm good with that. Right. Now, let's think about those names I just named. Robert Parrish, Kevin Willis, Vince Carter. What do they all have in common? All those guys played in the league when it was physical, right? All those guys played in the league when it was physical. So yes, while it is no question that LeBron has the most minutes all time, he has the most points all time, he is playing the best in year 21 than anyone we've ever seen. Has his body taken the physical pounding that all those guys had to take before him? What's his name? Karl Malone, I think, played 19 years, and I believe he averaged 20 plus in his 19th season. But the point I'm trying to make is all those dudes had to get the physical pounding on their bodies. We can't say LeBron has had to deal with that. Can we? It's been a different era, and all the rules changed in 04. He came in 03. So to me, that has to make a difference, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think definitely it's definitely a softer league. Everyone knows that. 200 points in All-Star game is ridiculous. And people scoring 200 points in an All-Star game, you can get 40,000, through your career, because clearly nobody's locking down anybody in the league. So it's an offensive game right now. Just like we see in other sports. Offense sells tickets.
Sure does.
So I don't think anything's going to change as long as those seats are being filled.
That's a fact. But let me say this. Let me push back on you on one thing you said, and this is going to surprise a lot of people when I say this. I don't think LeBron's scoring record is ever going to be broken. Now, I think a lot of us thought that when we saw Kareem retire and it's at 38 and change, we said, man, I don't think anybody's going to be able to catch that. But LeBron has done it, and I think, this is just my opinion, could be dead wrong, I don't think him staying around has anything to do with him wanting to play with Bronny. I really don't believe that. I think I think that he's staying around because I don't think he believes he's going to win another championship, so he wants to push those records out, all his stats, as far as he can, because he knows that's going to be his like the final thing that he can do in the GOAT argument. Because as much as he says that he believes he's the greatest of all time, he knows he's not the greatest of all time. He knows that. And if he really was, he wouldn't have had to make the moves that he's made throughout his career. Now, here's the thing. I argue with my brother about this all the time. And there is one thing I got to acknowledge. The fact is, wherever LeBron has gone, he has won. There is no question about that. That's irrefutable. Now, that said, he's also lost on the big stage more than any other player of his caliber in history. No question, right? So, it is what it is. But whoa. Okay, somebody try to be funny in the chat. Okay, somebody's being a comedian in the chat. I just wanted to pop this up there. I'm not even going to respond because that's the most egregious statement ever in basketball. But People say things. But anyway, yeah, so I just wanted to push back on that. I really don't think that LeBron's record is going to be broken ever because he's just pushing it further and further out. And again, to your point, with the way the league is and not being physical and being soft and all the threes the guys are taking and all that, well, you know, it's just he has the ability and the opportunity to continue to put up numbers. And it's not just the points either, because I think he's fourth in assists all time and he's also top 10 in rebounds. So I think it wouldn't surprise me if he was trying to get the assist title, which he won't be able to get. Nobody's going to catch Stockton on that, but I'm sure he wants to get as high as he can in assists and rebounds too.
Yeah. I would like to have seen him get one just on his back, right, and not on the shoulders of other people.
That's right.
But at the same time, like, how often does he get double teamed? That's an even better question, right? Like, how often is he seeing double teams in these games? He's a great facilitator on the basketball court, great rebounder, great defender, great scorer.
No, great defender. No, but go ahead.
No, okay,
no,
all right,
no,
okay, all right.
We can talk about that, but no,
we can agree to disagree. But I mean, how do you if he have like two Hall of Famers on his team every time he played? One, if he's switching teams as much as LeBron switched, like how do they build chemistry, right? We saw when the Bulls, they had chemistry that was there. They stuck together. But if you constantly switch teams, you don't build. I don't think it's possible to build the chemistry you need to win dynasties, go 3 in a row, do those types of things. So.
Okay, so let me touch on this real quick. The great defense thing. That's narrative, right? Because they needed to give him awards. And the reason I say that, if you go back and look, like, for instance, game 4 of the 1996 NBA Finals, Gary Payton goes to George Karl. Remember, Gary Payton, all-time elite defender, right? He goes to George Karl, says, yo, I'm taking Mike. I need this assignment, right? He takes him, and I think he pushed him into, like, really terrible shooting that night, right? And but I think he had a torn calf in that series, so George Karl didn't want to put him on Mike from game 1, right? Now, not saying that they would have beat the Bulls. There's no empirical evidence that the Bulls could have lost in the finals because it simply never happened. But that said, Gary Payton took on that assignment for the entire game. And I'm bringing this up to say we've never seen LeBron James take on an assignment for the entire game and shut somebody down. The LeBron fans keep saying, oh, well, look what he did to Derrick Rose when Derrick Rose was MVP. Well, we need to go back and be real and watch those games and watch that series and notice that he let Derrick Rose play. Derrick Rose gets tired. At the end of the game, in key fourth quarter situations, they switch LeBron onto him, and the narrative is he shut him down. Who have we seen LeBron James lock in on and shut down for an entire game or an entire series? It has never happened. So that's why I say it's a narrative that he was a great defender. He's always played like free safety defense, right? Because think about it. Ever since Paul Pierce in 2010, right, we saw him and Paul Pierce with the legendary duel in Game 7 of the semifinals in 08 with the Celtics on the way to the chip. I think LeBron had 45, Paul Pierce had 42, right? But he didn't lock up Paul Pierce in that series. And then we saw them again in 2010 when the Celtics ran him out of Cleveland and ran him down to Miami. He didn't lock up Paul Pierce. That's the last time that we've ever seen LeBron for any extended amount of time lock in and have to defend somebody. And he got it handed to him. You tell me, G. I know you're a hooper and I know you watch ball. Tell me when's the last time you've seen LeBron lock in on somebody for any extended amount of time. One game, one series ever. You tell me.
All right, you got me there. I'm stumped.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I see your comment, but the fact is that's BS, man, because all the other great guys had to play defense too. Michael Jordan had to play defense. The excuse wasn't he's too valuable to take the chance of him getting in foul trouble. Come on, man. All the other greats had to do it on their end too. Dream had to do it. Think about this. Dream was clearly the best player in the league, the best player the Rockets had, and he had a matchup game in and game out against David Robinson, who was the MVP in the 1995 Western Conference Finals. And did he run from the matchup? No. He locked him up and then destroyed him at the same time on offense. So let's stop with the he's too valuable offensively to risk the chance of him getting in foul trouble. Now, my man G just finished telling me that LeBron was a great defender. If you're a great defender, getting in foul trouble is not your concern because you're going to play defense. Did we have to worry about seeing Kawhi Leonard get into foul trouble? No, he was just playing D. So we got to stop. This is narrative. This is narrative, and it's not true. It's just not. But exactly, seriously, exactly. So Dream, my favorite player of all time. For anybody listening that doesn't know that, that's my all-time favorite player. But anyway, I bring that up because of that reason. But the point is, we saw it, and all the other great players in the past, they didn't get the excuse of they're too valuable on offense to play defense. So these are all things that I wanted to touch on, but it's just real interesting to me how this guy is so filled with narrative. It's like I heard somebody say that as great as his career has been, LeBron has had like one of the most flagrantly contrived careers ever because there's so much stuff about this dude that has just been manipulated. And I know I'm one of the people that says he's manipulated his career. He's manipulated the way the media sees him. His Clutch Sports and the mainstream media have manipulated the way fans see him. And, you know, y'all can feel like that is what y'all can feel like I'm a hater. But what I always like to say, tell me something I said that's not true. Because I take pride in the fact that when I talk about this dude, I don't make stuff up. So, G, I know you and I haven't had this extensive of discussion when it comes to LeBron and what other people think about him and what I think about him. And this probably sounds pretty bad to you. But the question is, and this is what I always ask, what have I said that's not true? You tell me if I said something that's not true, because I know you're going to give it to me straight.
I definitely had to go back and do my research and look at every game that LeBron played. I think the blocks, some of the steals, he's a hell of a player. But there is a narrative around him. I think the NBA does. He is the face of the NBA through and through.
No question.
Even though Steph has been giving him fits, he's the face of the NBA. So narratives and stuff like that is going to follow him.
So, yeah, so, and that's the other thing, real quick, before we go ahead and open it up to the phone lines for the calls. My question with that would be, for a guy, he's the face of the NBA, and the mainstream media, again, I keep bringing him up because they have that large platform and they have that large voice, and the LeBron fans are going to consistently tell you he's dominated for the last 20 years or the last 15 years. But if you've dominated that long, how come so many people ate on your watch, right? Less talented teams beat you. You got blown out in the finals by the Spurs. That shouldn't have happened. The whole reason you went to Miami was what? So you could win. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, right? All the way up to not 7, right? So you got all that. You got blown out by them. You got beat by the Mavs, who should not have beat you. you got smoked by the Warriors multiple times. Like, all these things are there, right? The history books will show it, just like the history books will show that he's a 4-time champion. The history books will also show somehow that he lost 6 times in the chip. Like, we gotta be real with this. You know what I'm saying? But what I want to do right now, because I'm starting to lose it. But real talk, I would go ahead and open up the phone lines right now. And you can call in. This is your opportunity to call in and give your thoughts. And what I'm gonna ask you to do, number one, let's keep it PG. If anybody's listening, they got their kids around or anything like that, I don't want you to have to change the channel. So let's go ahead, call in. No profanity, no racial slurs, anything like that. Give your thoughts. And the first thing I'm gonna ask you, what did I say that's not true? Not your opinion. If you refute me with facts. 904-219-8264. Waiting to hear from you. Let's go.